Welcome to the Juniper podcast, where we chat with the most fascinating people in the pet space and dive into ways to keep our pets happy, healthy, and enriched. If you're a little obsessed with your pets like we are, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. Hey everyone, welcome to the Juniper podcast. I'm so happy to be back here with Haley. And I think today, first I wanted to show you where I'm calling in from. It's totally snowing. And my dog is raised by a cat and is all curled up in this little cat bed over here. I don't know if you can see it, but she has taken over the cat bed. And I love all these videos of dogs who are like raised by or with cats that do cat-like things, like they do the bread loafing and all of that. And Addie has definitely some of those, but I think curling up like this in a very tiny bed, if it fits or whatever that was about cats,
Yeah.
she has that as a dog. So it's so cute.
That's so cute. I'm not sure if I can compete with that cuteness, but I'm at my parents' house visiting family, and this is my parents' husky, Snort. She came with that name. We did not give her that name. In 2017, I convinced my parents to adopt her. She was actually supposed to be my dog when I graduated college. The idea was that I was only a year until graduation, and they would care for her just for that final bit for me, and then I would take her. It didn't happen like that because she is such a perfect fit for my parents' house. She's even more nervous than my cattle dog Scout is, and really loves having the fenced-in yard and the cooler weather. She would hate living in a van. That would not be good for her. So she became the family dog, but she's really, really special to me. She's 10 and has that white face.
Oh, so cute. That's so sweet. I didn't even know about your bond with her. It's basically your other dog.
Oh, yeah. She and Scout are my two favorites. I was attracted to Scout because she reminded me of Snort. They're both like these notoriously high energy, intense breeds, right? Like a husky and a cattle dog. And they're both very fearful, shy versions of those breeds, which is sometimes not the easiest mix of traits, of course, as I know you know. But yeah, there was just something in the spirit there that drew me to Scout. Like Scout owes her everything.
Oh my gosh, that's so sweet. I know. It's so funny how like one dog leads to another sometimes, you know? So glad to be chatting with you today. We have another one of our mini episodes. We're actually going to try to keep it mini episodes. So I will kick off our topics today. First, let's start off with emergency prep. So when we're recording this is right after we're seeing a lot of the wildfires that happen in California. There was so much footage of people trying to get their dogs out and cats out. And we've been hearing and learning a little bit more about emergency prep. I actually think you're really great to talk about this because you live in such a self-sustaining, self-sufficient way, living in the van. You've already got like everything you need to be out on the road with your dog. So what do you think about emergency prep?
Yeah, honestly, I think that I have it easier than just about everyone else who lives in a stationary house or an apartment building. I feel really spoiled that our house is our car. And so if we ever did find ourselves in a situation where we needed to move quickly, we wouldn't have to pack anything because we would just be driving in that vehicle. And I think that that is honestly a huge privilege that we have because emergency prep can be so difficult, even ahead of time. You know, you can follow really great checklists online. You can figure out like the things to pack, where to store them in your house. But I think that when a situation like that arises, it's so stressful and so overwhelming, and you never know exactly how you or how your pets will respond. I know cats specifically are notorious for hiding when things get scary like that, and it happens so quickly. So yeah, I feel like I haven't done anything special to deserve it being so much easier for me, but like being in the van, we just have the bare minimum of everything we need stored, and we can just drive away. What is that like for you in the house? Do you have like an emergency kit for Nico and Addie?
Yeah, I have a go bag for the pets, but every time I see something like this actually unfold, I think about like more things I could put in it. And that's not necessarily good either, right? Like you're already living in a van with a dog, so you know like what you actually need versus like just go shopping and like buy more stuff for your go bag. So I think the basics that I have packed for the dog and cat are medicine. I bought one of those pill organizers where you can sort of have enough medicine for like 2 weeks for my cat who's on a bunch of meds and enough food for like maybe a week. I have a travel litter box. I keep that in my car. I actually keep kitty litter in my car anyway, because I read that if your tires are stuck or anything like that,
Oh,
it might be useful in a situation like that. So I keep a little bit of that anyway. And then just your basic like water, travel bowls, and I keep it all packed in one thing. The only other thing that I just bought recently, which I think is probably worth considering, and I keep this in my car, like a little like first aid kit for dogs, which I have never used. So I can't vouch whether that's going to actually be helpful in an emergency scenario. But I just recently got a sling that you could pick up a dog if they got injured on a hike. It's really small. It folds up to be about this big. And I think that that's kind of worth it because we've even had in the really cold weather, Addie's paw was freezing and we were pretty far away from our house and my husband had to carry her. Now, granted, we wouldn't have had the sling in that scenario. So, but it's going in the car.
Yeah, I think especially when something can fold up and package that small and then it's easy to bring along, it doesn't really hurt to include it.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about stuff where it's like, would you actually use it in something you can envision that's not just a total disaster scenario? And so for us, that's going to be in the car. And I'm going to throw that in my bag if we're just going on even like a regular hike. She got something in her paw. We had to carry her down a mountain or something. Like, we started hiking with her last year. So I think that's worth it for the amount of space that it takes up and what it is. Other than that, it's pretty simple, but I'm wondering if anybody has any other tips about emergency prep. Obviously, everybody preps for different things based on where you live and what may or may not happen where you live. But if you have any pet prep emergency tips, let us know. We'll be like logging those. Maybe we'll write an article for Juniper. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's such an important conversation and just always so hard to predict how it's going to play out.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next mini episode, rapid fire. What are we doing? Oh, vacation guilt. Okay, this is a big one. So I'm sure everybody who's listening has sort of dealt with this before, but I'm planning a couple trips for 2025. And I've had moments where I'm like, do I even want to go on this trip? Like trips of a lifetime that I've been planning and wanting to do my whole life simply because I don't want to leave my dog and my cat, but especially my dog because we do so much every day, and I don't want to leave my cat because he's a senior and like he needs me and he gets a bunch of meds. And so it's so hard to leave them. Do you have any tips for vacation separation or guilt?
A couple. This is so timely for me because I'm at my parents' house right now and Sean and Scout in the van are still in Florida. We didn't drive the van up here altogether. I just flew by myself, have some family things going on, and it's going to be 9 days when all is said and done, which is the longest I've ever been away from Scout. And I've been away from her this long once before, like a couple years ago when my best friend got married. So it's hard. And that's even in the context where she is in her home still, like she's in the van right now and she still has Sean. So, objectively, that's not a huge shift in her routine. And I still miss her. And Sean calls me and says that she acts differently when I'm not around. And that's really, really difficult. It's not entirely unproductive to feel that way because I do think it's important that we value our relationships with our pets and that, like we aren't laissez-faire about leaving them. But I also think that you and I, and probably anyone who has found themselves listening to this podcast, err on the side of overthinking. And sometimes I remind myself that a little bit of time apart is really healthy because Scout is my whole life, basically. And I love that. I've done that on purpose. I adore her. But I also take better care of her when I'm taking really good care of myself. And sometimes I do benefit from a little bit of space and some reminders of other things that I enjoy outside of just nerding out about dogs. And I feel like that can energize me and make me better for her when I return. So sometimes when I start to feel really bad, I try to position it like that in my head where I'm doing something for myself. I will make the necessary preparation so that she is cared for when I'm gone. And then when I return, will be even better.
Absolutely. I think that's a really healthy way of thinking about it too. And I think it makes them more resilient. Like I know because I work from home, I'm with my dog so much that if I've been home a lot and then I just leave for a few hours, she gets overexcited when I come home. And I'm like, yes, it's so fun to have her jumping all over me. But it's also like, I want you to be okay and resilient with other people that you know and trust. And, it shouldn't be that big of a deal when I leave and come back, basically. It's just a reminder to like keep going out and doing things. And I also feel something you touched on too is like it's probably good for us too, But I think something that drives me crazy is not knowing like what do they know and what do they think when we're gone? They can smell how long you've been gone and then all of that. But like, do they just adapt? Sometimes I just have to remind myself, these are animals, they're adaptable, and we should give them opportunities to exercise that adaptability and be away from us.
Yeah, I think that's really healthy. And it's so tough. One of the greatest banes of my existence is not being able to just ask Scout in abstract terms what she's feeling, especially because she is such a sensitive dog. But even with her, we've been able to find different methods of leaving her when we've had to travel without her. And I think that looks different for every dog. Maybe that's another good article idea someday.
Did you know that Juniper creates content for pet brands? From SEO-rich articles to videos that stop the scroll, we know how to tell stories that pet parents love. Ready to grow your brand? Visit us at juniperpet.co.
So for a while, we actually would leave her at the house and we would have someone stop by several times a day. And I know that that is not the norm for some other dogs out there, and that there are some other dogs, like my mom's therapy dog, would shrivel and be so upset if that was the situation. She's so extroverted. She needs to be around people. She'd rather be at a boarding facility or at someone else's house. But, knowing Scout's individual needs, it was less difficult for her to have a bit more alone time where she rested and slept than to be thrust into a completely new environment. And so I think that that's just a huge part of the whole thing, is that when we can find ways of planning that make us feel really good about what we're asking our dogs to handle within the capabilities that they have as an individual, it lets us relax a little bit more. Not that I don't still think about her, like all of the time when we're apart. But at least if you cover those bases, it's like a little easier to say, okay, I set them up for success. I'm going to go have my fun now, and everyone will be happy.
Yeah, I think the best tip is to think about what it'll actually be like for your pet. I see a lot of people like looking for last minute pet sitters and things around the holidays. I think the best tip I have probably is like, think about what you're leaving them with and see if you can give them a trial run of it. So for when we leave, we have a pet sitter who we love, and actually Addie sees her all the time and knows her, and she has another dog that she watches, and they have play dates 3 times a week. She'll be in her own house, but also have built-in play dates, so like thinking through what their day will actually be like.
That sounds like a vacation for her.
Yes. And that's also fun because she'll get like extra play dates that she wouldn't normally have. And so that will give me some peace of mind to be able to walk away. But I think what I like about that is then the only thing that's really changing is we're just leaving, which is still a huge thing for her. If the house stays the same and the friend stays the same and the person she knows stays the same, it's minimizing how many things you're changing. If your dog is going to a boarding facility, it's just like, can they do like a weekend there? I know it can be expensive, but like if you're planning a trip and you're spending money anyway, like, can you sort of put that into what you're doing to give them a little like trial runs for things, I think that's a way to do it for both you and them, even if it's just one night if they're going to the sporting facility. I think that makes it a lot better as far as your own mental health or leaving and what you're going to be rotating through, just thinking what would be a good setup for them. Because I think what happens is a lot of people get into trouble when they like didn't really do the research, and then it gets busy and then they're about to leave and they just pick a facility really quickly or pick a random pet sitter that they haven't really met yet. And so I'd say like anything you could do that could be like a trial run will really help you a lot with that.
Couldn't agree more. I think that's huge, and that allows you to have a bit more peace of mind and your dog to have a better time.
Okay, we're always asking people for their ideas, what we didn't cover. I think when you're listening to these conversations, you're going to think of like 5 other things that you found that are really helpful for going away. So we want to learn those from you too. So if you're listening to this conversation, you're like, oh, I actually found an actual tip or hack, please write into us. If you're on our newsletter, you can always hit reply, and both Haley and I read every email that comes in through there. Okay, last thing on the list was about cat enrichment. I know we talk a lot about dogs, but I had a moment the other day where I took out this old puzzle toy that's actually designed for cats. So I know there's a lot of enrichment toys for dogs, but they make stuff for cats too. And some of it is really great. And, my cat is 13. And I think we kind of tend to think that like senior cats grew out of their toys and don't really care about them anymore.
Yeah, that's a really common belief.
Yeah. So people just stop playing with their cats and then they're like, oh, he doesn't want to play anymore. I find that a lot of times that's driven by us because, like, yeah, they're more tired. They're not running around like when they're kittens. And this goes for senior dogs too. But they still like it if you bring it out every now and then and play with something. So I brought out this puzzle for my cat. He was like solving it, playing it. I hadn't seen him do anything like that in a really long time. Bring these things out, especially if you have them. And also, extra tip there, which applies to dogs and cats too, is if you are like, oh, my dog or cat is tired of all these toys anyway, I guess they lost interest in them. I found that if you literally put them away for like 2 months and then bring them out again, it's like a new toy. They kind of forget about them. We've just been doing that. Now I'm on a toy rotation. Things go upstairs, downstairs, into the closet, and then out of the closet. And I'm not shopping as much because I do that now.
I love that. That's one of the perks of living in a van is that we sort of were forced to do that, where, there's only room for Scout to have like 1 or 2 toys that fit in her crate out at a time for that free play that she initiates. And then the rest sit in a toy bin in the cabinet. And so we just naturally end up cycling through them. And I think it really helps her keep interest. She has some toys that she's had for like possibly a gross amount of time. Like I wash them, but sometimes I'm like, this toy is like actually 4 years old. Is that like still safe for you? Pretty sure it is with the washing. But the fact is that she still gets joy out of it because she's had it for that long. Do you notice with Nico, like I'm thinking about cats and cats playing more when they're younger. Is the puzzle that you got out for him something that's lower impact? So, instead of like chasing a string and like, flailing and bouncing about. So it's something that at 13, he feels really comfortable doing.
Yeah, that's a good point because I do feel with his heart condition that he'll run and chase every now and then, but I kind of want that to be a little more dictated by him. So he'll still get the zoomies and just like bolt up and down the stairs. And we're like, whoa, he's acting like a young man. Then he gets tired and chills out. So sometimes it is a little bit like, should I be running him around with this string toy? But I find that he only does it for like 10 seconds now anyway, but I still like to take them out. But good point, because the puzzle toy is low impact. It's something he can do with his brain and think about how to solve the puzzle, and that he doesn't need to be running for that or exerting himself in a way like that for, especially older cats. With a lot of them have arthritis and stuff. So yeah, I think that that's a good reminder too. When we think about enrichment for cats, a lot of this is low impact. So it's great for senior cats too. A lot of toys that are for cats are like running, scratching, jumping. And I think just now we're starting to learn that they can do solvable puzzles. They get a lot out of that too. And that tires them out in a mental way. It's mental stimulation for them.
I think that's so healthy, especially as they get older. I mean, think about as we people get older, the mental acuity becomes more important than ever.
Yeah. Okay, so this is one of our mini episodes. Hope you enjoy the length. Please write into us. If you haven't joined yet, you can join Juniper for free. It's juniperpet.co. You'll get a bunch of free downloads and guides, and we have all sorts of stuff coming soon too for you. So yeah, and hit reply and tell us what you want to hear more of on the podcast, and we will talk to all of you soon. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the Juniper podcast. Don't forget to sign up at juniperpet.co for guides, articles, and newsletters that make pet parenting easier. And if you're a pet brand looking for creative content that connects, drop us a line at juniperpet.co. We'll see you next time.